Yes, you heard it right. It is possible to get 95 or above in your informatics practices exam just in one day. And I personally studied for just 8 hours in those 10 holidays that I got before my exam, and I still got 98 out of 100. So in this video, I will be talking about the step-by-step procedure for you guys to get 100 in your IP exam. So let's get started. So now let's break down the syllabus. So you can clearly see that there are mainly 4 topics. Those includes computer networks. Number 2, Java programming with some HTML. Number 3, MySQL database and some relational database properties. Number 4, your IT applications. So these are pretty much only 4 topics rather than your 9 chapters in your NCERT book. And now break it even to some broader topics. So it is all about practical knowledge, mainly from Java, HTML and MySQL, and some theoretical knowledge from all of these 4 topics. So your goal is to practice well in your practical questions, and that includes Java, MySQL, HTML, etc. because if you want to get even minimum 50%, you should cover it by practicing all of these questions. And I have linked some notes, and I just did a simple Google search. So the first notes I found, and I read all of them, all the questions, and I didn't find a single mistake. And these are pretty good notes, and majority of these points have been taken from NCERT directly. So you can take my word for it, and these are very easy to understand. And these are only 90 pages rather than your 200 to 300 pages in your NCERT book. So you can use these. And also for practical knowledge, it's not just about one day. It requires consistent hard work. So I was pretty consistent in IP throughout my grade 12. So that's why I was able to get 98 by just studying for 8 hours. And I just literally paid more attention to theoretical knowledge because I already had practical knowledge back then. But you have to spend minimum 1 day on practicing all of these problems, and the day 2 could be only for theory because theory is pretty simple. You have to cram a lot of things, but it is going to be very simple. Few questions from your IT applications and few questions from computer networks, and mainly practical questions from MySQL and Java programming language, and also some HTML. And while covering MySQL, make sure you practice 4 to 5 problems related to tables when they ask you properties like creating a table, reading a table, updating a field, updating a row, updating a column, or even it could be altering a database, altering a table, and also deleting the whole database or deleting the whole table. And that also includes questions like primary key, foreign key, etc. So make sure you cover all of these important concepts. And along with that, some functions like group by and some DDL and DML properties. So these are very important. And while covering Java, you have to make sure you practice loops. That includes while loop, for loop, and also do while loop. And along with loops, you also need to know about increment and decrement operators like plus plus and minus minus. And after this, you can finally work on forms. So these are the most important questions. So they're going to at least ask you 1 or 2 questions related to creating a GUI page with buttons, with JFrame options like checkbox, radio button, etc. And आपको at least 3 से 4 GUI form वाले questions practice करने हैं because they can either ask you question with radio button or checkbox. So you should not be scared what to do when they ask you for a checkbox, or what to do when they ask you for a radio button, or what to do when they ask you for a password field. So practice all of these GUI menus, GUI options, so that you're not scared during your exam. And after that, some conceptual questions may show up relating to abstractions, inheritance, string functions, and some other functions. So you make sure you have to practice these. And the most tricky thing that they're going to ask you is about substring. So there is a huge difference between MySQL substring and Java substring. So you have to be careful about that. And along with that, they can ask you questions like converting if else to switch statement or switch to if else, or vice versa. So these are some of the guaranteed questions that they're going to ask you. So make sure you practice these very well. And the last minute tips that I would like to give you for your exam is make sure you give at least one example for every question. And in most of the cases, they're going to ask you for examples even in some definition related questions. So you should memorize at least 2 to 3 examples for every question. And along with that, some minor mistakes that you should avoid is you should write in neat handwriting and revise the paper properly, at least leave like 1 hour to revise it, because you can pretty much finish your exam in like 2 hours. So make sure you should have at least 1 hour to revise your paper. So that's pretty much it, and your IP exam is gonna be very easy. So I wish you all the best, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna do amazing in your IP exam. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.